Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jess, sales coach and leadership expert, and I'm really excited to come to you from the sunny hotel room at the Point A Hotel in Shoreditch in London. So that is where I'm hiding out this evening. I say hiding out, I have actually just spent the day at Janet Murray's Media Influence Live. So I'm recording this episode and actually trying to get it out to you guys pretty quickly because there are a couple of things that come up today and a couple of questions that people have asked that I actually think are pretty relevant to where we are in terms of the year and in terms of how fast the year is going. So you'll have to forgive me during this episode if my teeth start chattering. I have managed to put the air conditioning on in my room to about 8 degrees. So it's sunny, but also freezing cold, and I can't work out how to change it. However much I seem to press the little up button, just doesn't work. Given that it's quite a jazzy hotel, it's quite contemporary. It did take me about 15 minutes to work out how to turn the lights on. I think I'll just suffer with the cold while I record this episode. So this episode is all about hiring your team. One of the things that I've been really, really impressed with at Media Influence Live, which is Janet Murray's event I'm at and speaking at tomorrow, in fact, which is very exciting, is that the quality of her team is really, really high, and the standards they all have is really high. And I'm always getting asked questions, and in fact I was asked a question from a delegate today who asked, how do you hire your team? How do you know when you're ready to hire your team? Who should I hire? How does that process work? Because hiring anyone into your business, one, your business is your baby, and two, it's actually, you have to start thinking about where's your profit going, and suddenly you're paying somebody else, and that can be a bit scary, and you're not sure whether the ROI is going to come in and all that kind of thing. So I thought I would dig into that on today's episode and make sure that you guys know when you're ready to hire that first team member, or when you're ready to hire a fifth team member, and how I do it in my business, because I've recently made some big hires myself, which has all been very, very exciting. So, news on the block. What's going on in Jess world this week? Well, actually, it's been a pretty long couple of weeks. I've been to 2 amazing events. So obviously, I'm at Media Influence Live this week. Last week, I was at Entrepreneurial Leaders Live, which was the lovely Helen Packham's event, talking about profit pathways, which is very, very exciting on day 2. Day 1 was full of inspirational and motivational speakers, and I've got a whole episode coming to you on the difference between inspirational speakers and the difference between the transformation that you have with an inspirational talk and the breakthroughs that can come about of that. And, obviously the kind of strategic side as well, because I sat there at Helen's event last week and was just absolutely wowed by some of the speakers and, well, by all the speakers really. And by just how powerful the breakthroughs that came about, business breakthroughs that came about on day 1 that also came out on day 2. It was just really, really interesting. So there'll be a whole other episode on that. There's a whole blog post about my key takeaways from some amazing speakers like Anne Daniels, who was the first woman to lead an all-female team to the North Pole, which is just ridiculously impressive. From Toby Moore, who is the curator of TEDx Brighton and also the founder of a content company called Yammer, which is about to rebrand. So I'll put the new branding in the blog or the podcast episode that I record on that for you. But so I just want to talk about teams for a bit, because this week I've just announced, you may have seen if you're in my free Facebook group, that I have hired a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, finally, in my business. So massive, massive welcome to Liz Wilkins. Yay! It's so good to have you on Team Jess. And hopefully you'll be listening to the episode and be like, oh, that's me. But massive, massive welcome. And so, I was kind of thinking about it, and me and Liz were talking about this. We sat up very late into the night, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, drinking cups of tea. So I wasn't even drinking wine. I was drinking cups of tea at Helen Packham's event last week. And we were talking about, making hires on your team and how scary that can be when you're a business owner versus when you're in corporate. When I was in corporate, I would be hiring lots of people into my team, and I never really even thought about it. And, I kind of just assumed that when I started my business, it would all be exactly the same. But obviously it isn't, because when you start your business, not only do you want somebody who's going to treat your business in the same way that you would, and be just as excited about it and just as passionate about it as you are, but also you are the one who is financially responsible for them. And that's a pretty that's a pretty tough place to be. It's a big responsibility, and it really, really freaked me out. And so we were kind of talking about my business and how it got to where it is, and how I started to understand why I wanted to hire a team, when was going to be the best time for me to do that, and the mistakes that I made along the way. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. So the biggest question or one of the biggest questions that I get when I deal with businesses that are hitting that 5K consistently a month mark is, Jess, I think I'm ready to get somebody, or I'm always really, really busy, so I think I need to hire my first VA or my first assistant. But how do I really know that I'm ready to hire? And the simple answer is, and the way that I look at it is, it's maths, right? Which is really boring. And I actually am not the world's best mathematician, despite liking sales. Like, I'm very, very good at selling things, very good at hitting numbers, but complicated maths, long division is not my jam. But for me, it is a simple question of numbers. So what I looked at in my business was, where is the tipping point between I'm now having to spend all of these hours servicing clients and working on client delivery work, and then trying to do everything else myself too, and I'm fully booked with clients. So I can't physically take on any more work client-wise, but equally I'm so busy delivering to clients, because at this point I'm working one-to-one, that I can't actually do any of the marketing or anything required. So in 3 months' time, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm not fully booked anymore. What do I do? And have to start from zero. So when you are looking to outsource in your business, it really is about finances, and you'll find that the scariest thing when you are about to hire a new team member is that generally, because you are at your tipping points, you physically can't take any more clients, and you physically are so busy, you're working so many hours in your business, that actually your revenue plateaus. So, the most common fear that comes up for most business owners, and me included, was, oh God, my revenue isn't going up, and I need it to go up because I need to hire someone, I need to pay them, and oh my goodness, it's going to come out of my profit. And, you have all of these fears. Now, the reality is that when you make any major business decision, you are always going to find that your revenue takes a little dip, because generally what happens when we make any kind of major business decision is that we have to invest in something else to get to a new level, or we have to stop doing something temporarily, and change something, and that usually affects our sales, it usually affects our marketing. So when you start to think about hiring that first team member, don't be scared if you are sat there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm really overwhelmed, I'm really busy all of the time, I've got tons and tons of client work to do, I've got tons of marketing that I need to do, I just don't have time, and my revenue is plateauing, because that actually is the signal that, guess what, you need somebody to come in and help you take some of the weight off of your shoulders. So that being said, obviously, if you are not making, I would say at least 3K a month, you don't need to be hiring an assistant or anything like that yet. And I know that everyone in the online space will tell you, hire an assistant really early, get them to manage your emails and all this kind of stuff. And I firmly agree with Tim Ferriss. I loved the 4-Hour Work Week. It was one of the books that inspired me to not only leave corporate, but also when I was making my first hires, I read the book and I was like, oh my goodness, like I could save all this time and I would get such a good ROI. But at the same time, we also have to look at what's good for your business right now. What do you really need to outsource? And is it a case of you needing to outsource and being at that tipping point? And if it is, and it's less than 3K a month, you need to be looking at raising your prices, not looking at hiring. And if it isn't, it's a case of prioritizing and really looking at your time management and thinking about, where am I potentially losing time? Where am I spending energy or investing energy that actually I don't need to be right now? So that's at the point when you need to hire, when you've hit that tipping point, when your revenue is starting to plateau and you've got too much work on, but you can't actually do anything about it. You need to get people onto your team, or a person onto your team. So the next question that always comes up, and again, I had this one today, was, well, how do you know who to hire? And this, I guess, kind of falls into a couple of different areas. So firstly, you have to look at your business model. Okay, so when you're looking at your business model, you have to look at, what do you actually want people to do for you? Is it you want people to take away some of the client delivery work? So if you're looking at, if you're a web designer and you want somebody to come in and take over a couple of client projects or something like that, you're looking at moving to more of an agency model. And what that means is that you will be hiring people who potentially have a similar skill set to you to work on client delivery processes. Now, if you're doing that and you're scaling that way, obviously it's really, really important you hire the right people right from the get-go. And we're going to talk about hiring processes and stuff like that in a second. But it's super, super important that you make sure that these definitely are the right fit people, that they're definitely going to be working with you long term, that they align with your brand, all that kind of stuff, because obviously they are going to be the people who are completing the work for some of your clients. So this typically happens, you tend to get this agency model or a model where people help with client delivery more commonly in the done-for-you industry. So VAs who are running agencies or teams of VAs, web designers, you look at graphic designers, basically anyone who's running a done-for-you service will generally expand into an agency model because, right, you can take more clients if somebody else is doing the delivery. So if you're not in a done-for-you kind of space and you're actually in done with you, or you're in products or other types of services, what tends to happen is you then look at, okay, what kind of team do I want? And you have to look at where are your skills, where are your really strong skills and where are your weakest links. So for example, in my business, my strongest skills are sales and client delivery. So when I was, thinking I want to free up more time so I can do more of those things, I can sell more stuff and I can deliver better experience to clients and to more clients, I needed people to come onto my team who could take over all of the stuff that I didn't enjoy or that I wasn't, particularly good at, or that, my skill set could do, but actually would be a waste of my time. And it was a better return on investment for me to get somebody in. So when I started hiring, I started out with a VA who could help me with some of the tech skills. I am not techie at all. And it always surprises me. Sometimes people think I'm really techie and I'm like, I can use Zoom. I can troubleshoot ActiveCampaign, but that's really about it. So when I made my first hire, I hired a VA because I was spending so much time trying to do things like upload content into group programs and, set up different like payment links and recurring subscriptions and manage logins and all this kind of stuff. And actually hiring somebody to take that off my plate freed me up for a lot more time to be able to go out there and sell more, which was fantastic. Now, obviously, not every hire works out, and we'll talk about that shortly. So I want to reassure you that if you are somebody who's like, Jess, I have hired somebody and they were terrible, don't worry about it. We've all been there. You will eventually find somebody who's great, and it is a case of having a really, really good, I want to say recruitment process. That sounds very formal, but it is a case of having a good, solid recruitment process that's going to get you the people that you want. So, when you're looking at who do you need to hire, who should you hire, you have to decide on what kind of team you want. And so in my business, and typically with anything that's not done for you, most people look at where are my weakest skills and I will outsource those. So you might decide to outsource bookkeeping, you might decide to outsource technology, it might be customer service, you might run a membership or something, everyone's always forgetting their passwords and stuff like that. You want somebody to take that off your plate. It might be you get someone to manage your social media or your copywriting or even your content. But it's important that whoever you hire, is going to give you an ROI in some area. Okay, so whether that ROI is that they give you more time freedom to be able to do the things that you are good at, or even to just take time out of your business sometimes, whether it's that they give you energy, so they're obviously saving you time or making you enthused about different projects. For somebody who really, really hates copywriting and creating content, having somebody else to do it for you can give you a lot of energy to go out there and actually sell things really well because you're excited about it, because you haven't had to do the boring bit. And then obviously financially. So everyone on my team there is a financial target that is kind of attributed to them. And what I'm always kind of keeping in my mind is that whatever I pay has to come back double. So, I have an awesome assistant, Beth. She manages all of my emails. And actually, the emails that she manages and the opportunities that she spots or that she delivers on are always equaling more than what she is necessarily paid. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm very, very fair to my team, and I think they would all agree, hopefully. That's really awkward, isn't it? I think they would all agree that I do pay well and that, I'm not a terrible, terrible person to work with. But, everybody does have to have a cost attributed because obviously you already have costs in your business. So as you're expanding into the team bit, people are always saying, oh, well, you just sell more stuff. And to an extent, yes, you do sell more stuff if you've got a team who can take some of the weight off of your shoulders. But also there is a cost to running a business that is just a natural cost. There's software that you use, there's time that you put in, there's boring things like electricity and all that kind of stuff. So I find that it's really helpful for me to have a financial target for everybody. And it means that I'm always looking at my bottom line and looking at, okay, great, well, how are the team performing? And are they contributing to projects that are actually helping the overall success of the business? Because I firmly believe that if my business is successful, then they get to be successful too. It's kind of, I like to encourage collaboration, everybody wins type atmosphere. Obviously, if like my podcast hits number 1 on iTunes, then our podcast producer gets to be like, hey, I'm working on a podcast that's hit number 1 on iTunes. And if the business has a really, really great launch, it means I can turn around and be like, great, well, look, this is what everyone, contributed to the launch in terms of saving me time, or in terms of giving me more energy, or in terms of just taking crap off my plate so I could actually sell stuff, and we can look at like bonuses and, just ways of saying thank you that are just nice. So it's that kind of thing. You've got to decide on what kind of team you want. Do you want people who are genuine freelancers? And if you do, then you have to look at what the cost that can come with in terms of, are they necessarily as bought into your business as you are? Probably not. But are they the experts at what they do? Quite probably yes. So you do have to weigh up some of those factors as well. So once you've decided what kind of team you're going to have, you have to look at, how are you making sure that you're hiring the right person? Now, I'm going to be very, very transparent. I have hired quite a lot of the wrong people, and I used to work in recruitment, so get me. Let's be very, very clear that a lot of the time, especially when I was first starting to hire people for my business, I really went on recommendation. I was in Facebook groups and people were like, oh, this person's amazing. And, I wouldn't really go through an interview process with them. And then that meant that, inevitably I had certain expectations and maybe they didn't have the skill sets, and it had never been communicated, and it wasn't their fault and it wasn't my fault. It was my fault. As the business owner, I should have run a proper interview process. But because I didn't do that, actually, there were certain situations that right from the get-go just probably would never have worked out. And I would have known that had I run the proper interview process. So now, whenever I look at hiring somebody into my team, generally I hire from my community, because one of the things that I do when I'm kind of hanging out in my community and I'm talking to people, or I'm working with people who are clients of mine or anything like that, I'm looking at how they build their businesses. I'm looking at the results they're getting. I'm looking at who they're talking to. I'm looking at how they interact with people. I'm looking at, how they have conversations, because, you have to hire for skills 100%, but you also have to hire for personality and attitude. And those are the things that you can't really train people into. And there are certain people that I get on really, really well working with, and there are certain people I don't. For example, I am not a micromanager. I'm just too lazy. And so that actually means that, if I don't hire people who are genuinely hardworking, or who genuinely take pride in the work, or who are genuinely self-motivated, actually there's quite a lot of room for them to just go and do whatever the heck they want. And actually, if you don't, or if you can't trust those people, and then what can end up happening is that you get like substandard quality work. So for me, hiring from within my community means that I get to look at, things like, okay, well, how well does this person know my business? And from what perspective do they know my business? And, are they genuinely enthused about my brand and about what we do? And, do they understand what my business is and the mission statement behind it, and, how we help people on a practical level, but also like, what do people feel like they can contribute? As I was talking about at the start of the podcast, I hired Liz Wilkins as our new COO this week. And I'd actually approached Liz. I didn't run a formal kind of interview process with tons and tons of people, because she's been in my community for about 1.5 years. I know her really well. I've seen her work on some amazing client projects. She's worked with clients of mine. She designed my planner and did an amazing job. I've seen the way that she interacts with my community, and I know about like her customer care and all this kind of stuff. And so actually it really made sense for me when I was looking for somebody to be the COO and to take over on things like the marketing and the rebrand and all that kind of stuff, I was like, yeah, Liz is going to be a safe pair of hands. She's got really, really great experience in the corporate world. And, I've watched her for a year and a half and I've helped her build her business. And so I know it really well and I know what she is like as a person. And so actually for me, it was a no-brainer decision. The same with my assistant, Beth. I'd known her business for 2.5 years. And when she started moving into the virtual assistant space, she'd come out of like events management and all this kind of thing. I knew her really well. She's really loyal to my business. She really wanted to see my business succeed. And she was always willing to help out. And she was always really, really supportive in my communities when she didn't have to be, and so for me, that level of customer care was really important. And that support was really important. So, those were kind of natural decisions. Other people, so for example, Scott, the producer for the podcast, that was more of he'd been recommended and I'd interviewed like lots of different people. I say interviewed, like, tell me about your CV, tell me about your experience. But it is that kind of thing, I'd spoken to lots of people about creating a podcast, about producing the podcast, and I wasn't making a decision based on cost. I was making a decision based on who can I actually work with. So when you're looking at who should you be hiring, yes, it's about the position you need them to fill. Yes, it's about the skills you need them to have. But also you need to be thinking about, don't just take the person who comes recommended, take the person who fits your business, who fits your needs. So, like I'm saying about personality and attitude, I can't work with people who are bitchy. I can't work with people who are high drama because honestly, I just don't have time for that. So, if I see people going out there and they're really getting bitchy and having a bit of a pop, they're not people I'm going to bring into my business. It doesn't matter how great their skills are because actually I don't have the energy to keep up with all the other stuff going on. So, you've also got to think about who can work with your style. So, for example, I'm somebody who I always say to my team, you need to organize me because I'm a really, really great salesperson. I'm really, really great at client delivery. I am super, super reliable when it comes to doing things for my clients. I will get stuff done early. I will go above and beyond. I will, sell all the things. However, I'm terrible at remembering how many blogs I've batched, so I need people who can be like, Jess, you've only got 2 blogs left. Go and write another blog. I need people who will remind me, who will keep me on track, because otherwise I'll get so caught up in the things that I enjoy that the jobs that I don't enjoy as much, I just don't get done, so you've got to be thinking about who's going to work with my style. Are you somebody who's a real micromanager? Are you somebody who likes to really know what people are doing, or do you just care as long as the job gets done kind of thing? Are you somebody who really maps out your launches and knows them to the nth degree? Or are you somebody who wakes up on a Monday morning and thinks, yeah, I just kind of want to sell that today? And, you need people who can be uber flexible and really adaptive. So really think about these things because they are really, really important. If you can think about those things early, it means that you don't make mistakes. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see people making when it comes to hiring, and this goes to anything, this goes to people who are actual team members or people who are their coaches or, people who are their consultants and stuff, is that, they don't actually look at what do I really need. They look at, how much money am I spending on this person? And if they're really expensive, then surely they should be really good. And sometimes, I say this sometimes, a lot of the time, it isn't about what somebody's charging. It's about, do they have the skill set? Do they have the right attitude? Do they fit with your business? Can they do what you need them to do? Or can they help you get done what you need to do? Those are the most important things. It doesn't come down to what's on the bottom line. I mean, obviously, you do have to factor that in. Otherwise, everyone's accountants will just hate me. It is important to look at what you're paying people, but that shouldn't be the major factor of your decision. And it certainly shouldn't be a case of, that person's really expensive, therefore they must be great. Make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure you know what you want. Make sure you're really, really clear about the job role that you want them to do. I think when we hire people into our team, and I see this a lot, people hire people and they don't really know what they want them to do. They just know that they're really overwhelmed. So they're like, right, I'm going to get a VA because I'm so overwhelmed. And then the poor VA comes into the business and is like, right, what do you want me to do? And they're like, I don't know, because I don't really know. And if you touch anything, you won't know how to do it like I do it. And so, it'll all go wrong. So when you are hiring people, make sure you're setting them up for success. Make sure you are saying to them, this is what I want you to do. These are what the achievables are. This is the time frame that we need to complete this specific task or get this particular project done. These are the things I want you to do. These are the people I want you to communicate with. Make sure you introduce people. It's not just a case of paying somebody and then hoping that, that all the problems go away. It is really a case of, how are you setting this person up to win in your business? How are you bringing them into your team? Are you making them feel like your success is their success? Because if you are, you're going to find that they're much more loyal, they stay a lot longer, that they work, and that they enjoy working really hard for you. So, make sure that this is a two-way street when you're hiring people. You're not just hiring any old Harry. You are hiring the right person for your business, and that you're genuinely excited about that, and you give them every opportunity that they possibly can take to win. When I was working in corporate, one of the most disillusioning things that I ever used to see was that we'd bring people in and we'd run like graduate schemes and stuff, and you'd see 80 graduates rock up on the 1st of September or whatever, and we used to laugh in the industry because we go, oh yeah, we've got an 80% attrition rate. 80%, right? So 80% of people who were starting on a graduate scheme would leave in the first year. So that causes a lot of problems in a business. If your attrition rate is high, or if you're not hiring the right people in the first place, you actually spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money trying to train people, trying to get them to do things the way that you want them done, trying to make sure that everything works and that it looks right and that it flows and all this kind of stuff. And so the reality is, it's much, much cheaper to hire the right person in the long run than it is to just hire anyone and hope for the best. All right. So be really, really clear about what you want, about what kind of person you want, and about what you want them to do and how you're going to set them up with success. Okay. So that's kind of crux of today's questions. One of the biggest questions I had from the event today. The good news is there are other questions that are coming. So some people have been very, very kind and popped into the Facebook group and let me know about episodes that they would like to see. So there are going to be some episodes coming on the skinny behind, or the down low behind my next launch. So there's some exciting things coming about that. I'm going to share some epic sales secrets with you from the behind the scenes of my launch before I even do it, so you can swipe stuff and you can implement it yourself. I'm going to be doing some exciting things around visibility, specifically with this podcast. So if you are a poddy, I would appreciate your support. I've hinted at it a couple of times over the last couple of episodes, but I am going to be in need of your support at the end of July. So look out for that, and look out for what or how we are going to be rewarding loyal poddies as well, because there are some exciting things coming there. And obviously there are going to be some key takeaways from the events that I've been lucky enough to speak at over the last few weeks as well. And look at this, I'm giving it all away. Super exciting news is that the Dotties, my private membership site, is about to reopen the doors. So the Dotties membership will reopen next week. So if you have considered joining the membership, if you've been thinking, actually, I'd quite like to learn about sales, there is going to be a brand new sales page, which will be in the show notes today. So if you are a poddy and you're like, I want to get in early, make sure you go and hit that link in the show notes. You can go and see how you can join. You can go and become a Dottie and join our motley crew, learn all about sales, business building foundations, and all the good stuff to take you to the next level in your business. So there you go. It's a very, very excited time. I'm very excited to share the behind the scenes of the couple of things that we've got coming up with you. So if you guys have enjoyed today's episode, if it has been useful, please remember to hit that subscribe button. And if you've liked it that much, you can always leave us a little review as well. And make sure that you check out the show notes, because we have really cool links to some epic free stuff. And also we have that link to the fact that the Dotties is going to be open as well. So for you guys who are super sneaky and super keen, you can come and join us in our crazy little corner of the internet as well. I hope you have an epic week. I'll be back on Friday with an awesome episode that I hope you all really enjoy, with one of my favorite people on the internet. So I will see you guys on Friday. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you then.